My name is David Durando. My nickname is Rotten Dave. I'm the singer for Rotten Gimmick. I lived at the Metroplex for 2 years and played there many shows. So, and I'll tell you just one memory about living at the Metroplex. Lemmy from Motorhead used to play there quite often. And when the band would get done playing, we would close the joint down, kick everybody out. I lived upstairs next to the office and the dressing room. Lemmy's band would be up in the dressing room. The crew would be loading out his equipment. Lemmy would go downstairs, take an 8-ball of cocaine, dump it out onto the pinball machine, take about $10 in quarters, put them on the pinball machine, and sit there the rest of the evening snorting right off the glass of the pinball machine, playing pinball until the crew said, "Lemmy, we're loaded up, let's go." And then they would drag him out of the Metroplex and take him away. That was another memory. There was a guy that lived there for a while. His name was El Duce. He was a singer for a band called the Mentors. The Mentors broke down in Atlanta, and El Duce ended up living with us for a while. And El Duce was a drinker. And I remember El Duce would drink himself into oblivion by 8 or 9 o'clock. He would pass out in the men's bathroom of the bar of the Metroplex. And for those of you who have been there, you know how disgusting that bathroom was. It was a very disgusting bathroom. Well, Lemmy would get so fucked up and pass out, the dudes would come in there with markers and draw dicks and balls on his head. And then he would wake up and walk around for 2 or 3 days not knowing that he had dicks and balls drawn on his bald head. Suicidal Tendencies. Okay, Suicidal Tendencies played at the Metroplex. I was living upstairs. I used to sling a little weed, right? Well, the boys from Suicidal Tendencies, none of them trusted the other guys. Instead of coming up and buying one large amount of weed, they would all come up and buy a small amount because none of them trusted each other. It would start with Mike, the lead singer, and it would end with the guy loading up the amps at the end of the night. And it was just, it was like these guys, they toured together, they played together, but they didn't trust each other. They'd come into my room, they'd buy the pot, and I'd say, "Dude, why don't you just buy a bunch?" And they'd say, "Those other guys are assholes, they're thieves, and I can't trust them." The Dead Boys were playing around the country. It was Cheetah Chrome, and Stiv Bators at the time was playing with the Lords of the New Church. And I remember that the Dead Boys were doing shows without him. Well, Paul somehow, you know, as Paul did, he had a lot of connections, and he somehow got a hold of Stiv Bators in Paris, had Stiv Bators come to Atlanta, flew him, I'm not lying, I promise, I'm telling the truth. Hey, the lie detector's going off though. But anyways, Paul flew Stiv Bators in from Paris, and they played a reunion show. It was probably the only reunion show on the tour. And then shortly after that, Stiv Bators was riding on his bicycle in Paris and got hit by a car. He didn't go to the hospital, and he died. When I moved here in '86, they were playing as Neon Christ, and I do remember Jimmy, and I remember Neon Christ playing a lot at the Plex, and they were always a great man. Jimmy was always the great performer, great guitar player, and they were like the guys, you know, when I first moved into town and I was starting Rotten Gimmick, they were the guys that, you know, I kind of looked up to, you know, that I wanted to, like, I want to play at the Plex too, you know what I mean? Like, when I was in the audience, that was the band that I was seeing. You know, that was the band that I'd go out and want to see, and then, like, you know, I'd always be like, I want to be where those guys are. And that's what I remember about Neon Christ, you know? They were like kind of like an influence to me, you know what I mean?